All right, y'all. What's up, Facebook? Hello, hello, hello. We are live on Facebook. Super, super excited to be here yet again. This is Keesha Carter, CEO and founder of Serenity, Courage and Wisdom, back to share with you another interview with one of my amazing friends, someone who has, oh my gosh, she has made such an impact, not only in my life, but in the lives of so many other people. And I just can't wait for you to hear from yours truly. Well, not yours truly, but that's me, right? But so I can't wait for you to hear from the one and only Miss Anne Kinlaw.
Oh my, thank
Hello.
you. Hello, it's good to see you. I miss seeing you in the real world.
I know COVID has really changed everything.
It has.
It changed how we see, each other, seeing each other virtually, Facebook, FaceTime, Zoom. It's changed so much. But I'm so glad that you're here tonight with me to talk about caregiving. And so if you have, for those of you who are watching the replay, if you have been following Serenity, Courage and Wisdom, you know that I've been doing interviews with caregivers and actually survivors and caregivers. And so we have a caregiver series that we're doing right now. And it is amazing how much you can learn from talking to someone who's gone through it, right? And so I have found that it's so important that we bring this to you so that you can hear from someone. You might be a caregiver now and just hear from someone who's walking in your shoes. It is something that makes you feel better, right? Because you know you're not alone. And then you might not be a caregiver. You might be on your way into it. You might be, like they say, going into it, in it, or coming out of it. And so it's just something that I think we need to talk more about. We have a lot of conversations. I'm a stage 3 cervical cancer survivor, and I've talked to a lot of women and men about cancer as a patient. But as a caregiver, I mean, lots of times I just have found that caregivers retreat because they're thinking more about the patient, which I get that. But you, as a caregiver, you need to be heard. You need to, get resources. You need you need attention too, right? Because some people lose themselves through it all. But it's not about what I'm saying tonight. I want us to hear from Anne Kinlaw. So if you are not able to say the whole time, that's okay. It's going to be recorded. Come and check us out on our website. It's SCAWINC.org, and it's going to be in the comment section if you miss it. We will definitely have this recorded so that you can come back to it. Please feel free to ask your questions, interact with us. We want to hear from you. All right. So without further ado, I would love for us to get started and tell us, what is your connection as a caregiver? Like, what is your connection with cancer? And, how did the story evolve for you in your life?
Well, sadly, cancer came into my life when I was only 10. My dad had colon cancer, and
Wow.
it was a very scary time. He ended up with like 4 surgeries in a year, but did come out of it. And then when I was 14, he had melanoma and went through it again. And then later at 20, when I was 28, unfortunately, the melanoma came back and he passed away. So, that was my first, really close encounter with cancer. But then when I was in my 40s, and I know some of you are very young, but I was in my 40s, that still seemed very young now. Sadly, my husband was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And at first everybody was like, oh, he's big and strong and he's young and, nothing's, this is really unusual and he's going to be okay. But the simple surgery at first was not so simple. And I was by his side through that. He's young and, nothing's, this is really unusual. Oops, little feedback. So I think everyone who is with someone they love and they sit in a doctor's office and they hear the word cancer, it stops you in your tracks. I don't care what kind of cancer it is. You hear cancer when it's applied to the person that you adore, it's hard. And chills go through you and you're like, oh my goodness, what next? What's going to happen? And, and all I know for me, I was very blessed. He was a wonderful husband. And we were about to have our 25th wedding anniversary. And I was like willing to fight to do anything in the world to save him or to keep him from suffering or anything, and so that's kind of the mode that I went into of like, okay, I'm getting you to the best doctors. I'm going to find out everything I can. I'm going to feed you the best diet. I'm going to make sure you get your rest. I'm going to keep your stress down. It was all these things about him. In the meantime, I was still working. We owned a business. I'm actually a licensed clinical social worker. So I was doing mental health counseling. And, I had to realize I also had to care for me because we had to keep going even through this. So that was a very strong connection. And a lot of what I'm going to share with you today comes from that journey. And it was a 2-year journey. Sadly, I did end up losing him to the cancer. So, again, a lot of struggles facing that. His sister 2-3 years later ended up with pancreatic cancer. And we found out we had the BRCA1 gene in our family. And then his other sister had breast cancer. She has now had ovarian cancer and has had it recur for the second time. And the good news is she was just told she's in remission.
Wow, that's great.
So that is really great news. That's my connection to GYN cancer. And so she is in Michigan, and sadly, because she has lost her brother and her sister, she doesn't have children. I'm really her closest, like one of the 2 closest relatives to her. So I've also had to be involved in kind of supporting her from long distance. So that's where it all comes from. And then I ended up with Levine Cancer Institute almost 6 years ago to serve patients and caregivers in providing emotional support and resources. And I love it. I really do. I'm very honored to work where I am. And that's how I met you. And your passion for this work. And I just really appreciate you and what you do in the community. And I just want to help you and support you in little ways along the way. So.
Thank you, Anne. And you have been so supportive. I mean, you actually worked side by side with me for a great, I can't remember how many years, but you were very helpful with Serenity, Courage, and Wisdom as an advisor. And even though you're not like working in that capacity anymore, we just being connected with you as a friend, you have still made a big difference for me and the nonprofit as well. So thank you. Thank you for having a heart to love and to give beyond yourself in spite of what you may be going through between work and home or whatever. So thank you. And so as a caregiver, a lot of times that's what it looks like, right? Yeah. You're giving as a mother, as a wife, you're doing all of these things for everybody else. And I love what you said, you had to find time to care for yourself. What does that look like as a caregiver? And so, some of what we were talking about, you are actually like an author, right? You wrote an article back in April 2020, an issue called "To Walk Beside You: Tips for a Caregiver Partner of a Patient with Cancer." Did I get that right?
You did well.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I would love, I mean, I believe those tips are, that's why we're doing this platform. And so I would love for you to, share with us what are those tips, and then we could, have a conversation about that.
Yeah, it was interesting because where I work, they were saying we needed to develop resources for caregivers, care partners.
Mhm.
I like the word care partners because you can walk along,
Okay.
you can walk beside someone in this journey, literally, but you can also walk beside someone at a distance. And we've all had our share of that this year, right? With
Mhm.
COVID.
Mhm.
So the role you play can vary, but it can all be important. And I sometimes talk to people about like spokes in a wheel. The more spokes you have in the wheel, the better it's going to roll. So the more supports that you have,
That's
the better.
awesome.
And so, sometimes or even think of it as a pie. Sometimes you're the biggest caregiver, but there's others that you need. So when it came to the article, honestly, these were just thoughts that came to me deep in the middle of the night. And I started writing, and I wrote the next day, and I didn't rethink it. I honestly felt like God kind of just gave me the information from my own journey, and I felt like I was supposed to share it. I'm not a big writer. I'm not polished or anything, but thankfully, like you who wrote a book, I can't even imagine. So that's awesome. But I hope these tips are something that can help anyone in the role of caregiver. And I think I use them in my practice and have found them valuable. So hopefully they'll be sharing, helpful with some folks here tonight. So the first one is pretty simple, and that's just that when you're going into a consult, two sets of eyes are better than one.
Okay.
So when you're in a situation where you're getting that news where you might be hearing cancer or Alzheimer's, or I mean, it could be a number of scary things.
Mm-hmm.
Having another set of eyes and ears in the room is really important, because your emotions start to play games with you and you shut down. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, don't hear what the doctor's saying. And, I'll be honest with you, the first time I had this experience was my mother had breast cancer, another cancer, before
Mm-hmm.
before my husband had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And when we left the room and we started talking about it, she heard things I didn't, and I heard things she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very humbled because in my field, I'm supposed to be trained to listen. And I thought, I'll get it
Yes.
all right. I'll get it all. I'll hear it all. I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't. And so this journey of being a care partner was different than being a professional. The emotions are high when it's somebody
Mm-hmm.
close to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. The second one was figure out how much is too much. The
That's
one
good.
thing, the one thing I've learned a lot working with cancer patients is they vary in how much they want to know. Some people, they just, doctor, you're the doctor. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that's all I want to know. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Others want you to explain, okay, are you putting the needle in now? Where is it going? How much will it hurt, right? Or they
Mm-hmm.
want to know the scientific research behind the treatment you're giving them, or all the details. They want the schedule way ahead of time. And so people different around this, and that's okay. But you kind of need to know with your patient, if you're the care partner, of how much is too much, because sometimes it can be exhausting to the patient, and yet
Mm.
you can serve a role maybe in getting the information that's needed or the schedule that's needed or things like that. And I remember one time with my husband saying, how come you're not trying to read all this stuff that I'm reading and find out all this stuff that I'm finding that might help you?
Yes.
And he was like, I'll let you do that. I'm busy living. I want to use my time to just really enjoy my life.
Ooh. Mm.
And that just stuck with me. And so hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm, I'm living my life, just living. Some people don't do that,
Yeah.
when they're fighting for their lives. Um, I love that you said that, because someone needs to hear that. Okay, your focus should be on healing. Focus
Yeah,
on healing and living, you know.
when we were going through cancer, like at first we thought we had it all. And we went back to life kind of as normal. We had a son that was a senior in high school, and then we got word of it recurring just a week before his graduation, and it was horrible because it went from stage 1 to stage 4. It was a metastatic disease and essentially very unlikely to be cured. So it was really a tough time. And I'm kind of veering off, but since you went there, so I found myself, I was going through kind of some of my notes from back then, and I had written this little poem, and it says, "A word to hold to each and every day, savor, that is what I say. Let life's moments touch you in a powerful way. Stop the running to see more fully if what is real and true can last longer if we try. A sunset, a baby's cry, holding the hand of a loved one. We never know when the moment could be gone forever. With gratitude, I will live and look to you, O Lord, for the blessings of life."
Mm, wow. What is the name of your poem?
It didn't have a name.
You didn't name it. Oh.
I guess it would be savor. Savor would be the name, because that's a word that has grown very dear to me. And because I think we all need to savor our moments, right?
Yes.
And with people we love and care about, because too often we're thinking about where we have to be next, what we have to do next, or we're worried about where we've been or what we've done and what mistake we've made, and we're missing where we are. We're missing right where we are. And so much of the time in life could, if we just hold on to where we are and we enjoy that moment, I think we'd have a better life.
Oh my gosh. And you have preached. It's time to pass the offer plate. Because that's something that I have found is important. Taking, I interviewed Karen Ross Johnson, and when I was shortly after, she was, a caregiver as well for her mother, who also didn't make it through cancer as well. And so one of the things I remember, she and I was talking one day at her house, and I was just going through, right, and just trying to get the pieces back together after going through cancer. And she said, taking it one day at a time, one moment, 1 hour, 1 second. Sometimes we just take just a little bit at a time. And so like savoring those moments is a part of that, not feeling like you have to rush through life, but take it a little bit at a time. Just those little moments when you get to laugh with your grandchildren, or, get to sit and watch TV, or look at the sunset, or, just listen to the birds sing. Just little moments that you'll never get those moments back.
That's right.
So that's powerful. I know we're number 2.
Yeah.
Figure out how much is too much. That's really good. That's good.
Yeah, but part of what I think, I just want to finish up with that thought, Keesha, is it shouldn't take cancer for us to learn to savor.
Ooh.
And so often that is what I hear, because cancer makes us, it confronts us with the possibility of, just not being here, or our mortality. But I think the lesson is for all of us, don't wait till you have cancer or Alzheimer's or something awful to do that savoring in our life. So I won't belabor it anymore, but I just want to
say that's good. That's good. Why wait? Let's do it now.
The next one is just maintaining normal routines and traditions as much as possible. So normalcy has a way of comforting us. And I think that, again, we've all kind of had to adjust to a new normal for the past year, but the normal routines are precious. And so, trying to not make life all about the illness or all about, the appointments. And, if you have family dinners, have family dinners. If you go to church, if you go to a group meeting, if you spend time with your kids, things, just try to keep them as normal as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The
I like
fourth
what you
one,
said. Try not to make everything about cancer.
yeah.
I can understand how easily that could happen.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped kind of along that line is we used a website. I think it used to be called Care Pages. I don't think it exists, but now there's Caring Bridge.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm,
people will have like a blog where you can tell your story. And that became a wonderful addition to our routine because
mm-hmm,
we could put on there what was going on with his treatment, his progress, how he was doing. He could write. In fact, he did
mm-hmm.
write a lot on there, and people could send messages and, well wishes and prayers. And,
Yes.
but it kept us from having to repeat it every time we saw someone. We could just say, look at the Care Pages, and you'll get the update. And because talking about it over and over again feels like it's kind of permeating all of your life.
Yeah,
So
you
that,
relive it every single time you
mhm,
have to say it
mhm.
again.
Yeah, and it's a great resource and it's free. And so I'd really like people to know about that. So that might be something to
Mhm.
put in your comments too, the Caring Bridge,
Yes,
um, uh, whatever link. Okay.
yes. The Caring Bridge, and some people actually create websites. You have
Right.
Wix and some other websites out there that you can have like a free um update. What do you call it? Um where you could have like a blog, you can post the pictures, videos, like you said, receive and send
Right.
messages. So they do have other platforms out there for free. But what I like about Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken, you can connect with other people who are going through the same thing, right?
Mm. I think so. I'm not super familiar with it today,
Okay.
but I like it because like you have to be invited to it. So you can share it with whoever you want. It's just not like everybody in the world, can see
Yes.
it.
Okay.
So
So I might be mixing it.
yeah,
Okay.
there's some privacy with it. Okay.
Okay.
So number 4 is speak up. There will be times when your loved one is weary and tired and really not advocating for themselves, and you will need to advocate. If you're in that care partner role, there's a time, don't be shy to let the providers know what you need. If there's a problem, to ask
Mm-hmm.
questions. So I think that's something that sometimes the care partner has the energy for that maybe the patient does not.
Yes, that's good. I think that advocacy is so important because sometimes you may see something as the caregiver that the doctor or the nurses aren't seeing, and so being that voice to speak up, I love that.
And I think our providers really appreciate having a care partner that is giving helpful information when the patient can't. So I know the
Mm-hmm.
providers I work with, they appreciate someone, having a care partner. And some of the folks I spend the most time with are the people that really don't have anyone,
Mm.
as a care partner, trying to kind of help them advocate for themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Um, the next one is work with providers you trust and let them be the experts. Now, I have to admit, back when this was happening, this was back, well, I lost him in 2007. I was not in the world of cancer and I didn't know what I know today.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I was online researching things and looking at things and, trying this and trying that or asking. And I think it can get very dangerous because a lot of things out
Mm-hmm.
there are there to make money, and
Yep.
they're not really looking at the best interest of the patient. I'm not saying some of it's not good or helpful, or at least, helps with symptoms or things like that. But I think finding providers you trust and sticking with them is can really be life-saving. And I've seen that where I work. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to do that.
Yes, that's good.
All right. Making our way through. Number 6.
Yes.
Lifestyle factors matter for both of you, not just the patient. So this is where we get into our self-care, right? All right. So while facing cancer, you still need to be making healthy choices. Your nutrition, getting outside, spending time with other people, laughing. Laughter is such good medicine. In fact, one of the cancer centers we went to had a class on laughter, believe it or not. They literally made us read pages of laughing. It was the
Really?
silliest thing I ever saw, but we were hysterical by the time we got through it because you could not stop laughing. So watching funny movies, having people around you that are casual can make you laugh. Those kinds of things can be really important. But even things, again, like your routine of getting your sleep, having some quiet time to yourself, keeping up with some friends, reading a book, taking a bath, anything that kind of nourishes you as a care partner. And here's the question I would suggest to ask yourself if any of you out there in this situation. What is it that I can do that brings energy back to me? So what is it I can do that brings energy to me, that when I do it, I feel energized afterwards? And that will give you a key to some of your best self-care.
You know, I've been doing a room on Clubhouse called Hey Girl, You Got This. And so I know we've been talking about mental health and emotional intelligence. And that's one of the main conversations that we have is like that self-care as women, not just, you know, women, y'all, men need it too. Okay. But self-care, some of the things that you mentioned and going to the beach and just sitting out and just being quiet, getting still, you know, and as a caregiver, sometimes you need to retreat and just get away. And if you are, you know, a believer in God, you know, just sit and listen to the Lord talk to you, and maybe listen to some praise and worship or jazz, you know, that mindful meditation and breathing. Because I hold my breath a lot.
Yeah. Spa music. If you ever Google spa music on your phone, is really great to listen to. Even like when I'm doing charting, I'll listen to, you know, instrumental spa music, and it's very calming and helps me think clearly. Some of the apps that are out there like Calm and, you know, Headspace, I think it is, you know, some of those can help if you have trouble going to sleep. There's stories, we have so many things at our fingertips with technology. But you're
drinking some tea.
Drinking some tea. You're absolutely right though, Keesha. One of the best things that we all can do is just breathe. So just take, you know, the 4-7-8 breathing is really popular and has been proven to help people, you know, breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. That's an easy thing anyone can do.
Yes, I love that.
So I kind of ended up doing 0.7 because I talked about making time for laughter. So see, I did 2 at once.
So 6 is your lifestyle factors matter for the both of you. Right. And then what was 7?
7 is make time for laughter. It is healing. It is healing for body and soul.
Okay.
So kind of ended up that one. I just ended up naturally going to that one because it's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said make time for laughter is good for.
It is healing for body and soul.
Okay. It is healing for body and soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I also talked a lot about how our bodies store emotions inside. And so as a caregiver, you know, right now I'm a caregiver for my mom who's, you know, had open heart surgery. So when you think about everything coming at you, single mom, trying to run 2 households and work and, you know, try to, my nonprofit has taken a hit from it because, I don't work on it as much as I'm able to, but it's okay because my mom is my
That's right.
heart, she's important to me.
That's
But
right. And it's a season. It's not, it's a season and a
temporary.
time that you can't get back.
That's right.
And you want to feel at peace that you were there for her when she needed you. And
that's right.
That's really important because we need to feel at peace for ourselves. Did I play the role that I should have,
Yes.
or that I wanted to? I don't like the word should too much, but that I
right. Because it's a choice, right? Like
right.
Karen, she talked about that. Like you make a decision. Like this is a decision. I'm going to be a caregiver, right? Some people are kind of forced into it in a sense that they feel forced into it, but it's a decision. And I love that you said, what you said about laughter, because we need to get it out. Whatever you're storing up, if you're frustrated, if you get stressed out, you may not want the patient to know how you're feeling. So in addition to, like you said, the self-care, laughing, just releasing, that helps us to breathe, right?
Yeah.
And so unless you laugh until you cry, right? So I think it's so important to when we laugh, it's like a stress reliever, like you said, it's healing for our body. And so thank you for sharing that too.
And the next one is practice forgiveness for yourself and for others. Facing a serious diagnosis may change some of the dynamics of your relationship. It may, that person may suffer things where they can't be exactly as they were when they were well. And there may be things said that sometimes we regret when we're stressed, when we're tired, or when we're in pain. And so we really just need to be, I think, fluid with our forgiveness, to let it flow pretty freely. And there's going to be times when we don't say the right thing as a care partner, just like it's kind of the reverse of what we were just saying. Like we want to do our best, but we also want to honor our humanity, right? We're not perfect. We're people. Yeah. We have struggles. We have our failures. And, and some people are naturally more, able to care for others than some other people are. Like it's just more their gift. And that's okay. You don't have to change who you are. And sometimes that means involving someone else. It's too much for you. If you're the spouse or the daughter or the son and you're kind of lost, it's okay to say, this is my best and I need some more help, or, to communicate those things and not to be hard on yourself. It takes energy to stay mad. Right. And so we don't want to waste our energy being mad. We want to be able to, not at ourselves, not at our patient. So just really trying your best to just let it go.
Yes.
I had a Bible teacher one time that told me that the word for unforgiveness essentially means to carry a dead body on your back.
Oh.
And that's the literal meaning. Is the visual is you're carrying. So like, think about it. If you're carrying something like that, you're bearing the weight and the smell and so when we let it go, when we can forgive, we are freed.
Yes.
It's not so much about the other person as it is us.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that they were perfect or you were wrong, and they were right. It just means you're saying, we're going to clean slate it and start again. And when you're facing a serious illness, I think this is a principle that can only be helpful. So I hope that resonates with people. I just
absolutely
because found it valuable.
Like you said, it's not for the other person. When we talk about storing all kind of stuff inside, that, harboring unforgiveness, it can make you sick. It's freeing, not just for your mind, but for your body and your peace, right? So yeah,
And I
Wow,
think
that visceral.
sometimes we're hardest on ourselves. I
Hmm.
think sometimes it's really about forgiving ourselves and expecting
Yeah.
ourselves to be perfect when we just can't be. We're not able to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So having that grace and forgiveness for ourselves is important. And I don't want this to seem trite, because I know there's situations where people can't be in relationship with other people because there's risk and harm. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Right.
talking
Right.
about here where you're with someone you love and care for, and for caring for yourself.
That's good.
Um, 9 is a little bit a harder one, and that is move toward those hard conversations.
Mm.
Um,
How do you
depending
do that, Anne?
Well, depending on the severity of the diagnosis, you may be facing a life-threatening situation. And when you come to realize that, I think it's important to again sense what your patient's comfortable with, and that's going to be different for different people. But
Mhm.
it is something that I think many people need to feel comfortable giving that patient a chance to say what they want toward the end of life, or if they have wishes about their where they're to be buried, or whether they're how their service is going to go, those kinds of things that are hard to bring up when you're fighting for someone to live.
Mhm.
And to me, it's like we can prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Mhm.
And hope doesn't have to go away because we talk about some of these difficult things,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And hope can change its meaning. First, we hope for cure. And we're thrilled, like you're a dozen more years out now, right? So
Mhm.
we're thrilled with that. That's what we really hope for. But when it appears that that's not what's
Going.
going to happen, then our hope
Mhm.
is for comfort, for laughter, for time together, for it to be quality time. Our hopes
Yeah.
change. And so, but it's still hope. And we don't ever lose hope for each day to have something meaningful. So, don't be afraid of those conversations. Sometimes they can bring peace to the patient because they're afraid to even mention those things. And you
Mhm.
give them permission.
That's good. Yeah, it's um, you know, it's tough when you have to have that conversation with someone who's afraid of
Mhm.
leaving Earth, right? It's
Right.
afraid of what's going to happen. How will I feel? Will I be in pain? Or even thinking along the lines of what's the word, grief. They're going through their own grieving process, right?
Right.
As of losing life, losing you, losing whatever their norm is. And so I think in that moving, toward those hard conversations is having some levels of empathy and understanding for not just how you feel about having a conversation. Sorry. But not just for you having a conversation, but what about how that other person feels about you having that conversation, and how challenging that is for them to go there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes we can just open the door, and not everyone's going to want to go through it. I've had some patients that really don't want to talk about it at all, and they don't, and that's their right, right? It's not a
Right.
pressure thing. And I know back in my own situation, we didn't even talk about some of those things,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we were so busy like hoping and hanging on to where we were. And I don't really regret that,
Mhm.
per se, but there were some things that I've learned since then that I think that might have been helpful had I
Mhm.
approached the conversation. So again, that's unique to the care partners and the patients themselves,
Yeah.
but something to think about.
Right.
And the
That's.
last one is there's never enough time to say I love you.
Mhm. Oh.
So so the thing that I'm trying to share here is that when you're a griever, if you are in a situation to lose someone, no matter how many times you say I love you, it's never going to feel like enough when they're
Right.
gone, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so what we often see is people grieving experience a lot of guilt. And to me, much of it's unnecessary, because the reality is, if we sat all day long and said, I love you, it would get old, right?
Yeah. Like,
we
gosh,
still
you gonna
have,
say it again?
we have to still go about our life. We still have to go to work. We still have to cook meals, go to grocery store, take care of our children, things like that. So be kind to yourself in that area too, if you're in that situation. But saying, I love you, saying, thank you, saying, I'm sorry for, saying, I forgive you, those kinds of things can be very meaningful to bring peace, toward the end of life, if that comes.
Yes.
So I don't want to focus totally on there. That was my story with my husband. But thankfully, recently my story is having a loved one who's in remission. So instead, we're planning for a family get together to celebrate and to rejoice and be together. So again, savoring those moments that we can, wherever we can.
That was so good. And so if you are watching a replay, the link to her article is in the comment section. Please take a look at it, share it with, you never know who may need to hear that information or read that information. Sharing is caring. And it's, Anne has so much to offer and so much to give. And I think your compassion and your love for people, it exudes every single time I'm around you.
Oh, thank you.
You do support groups, right? And so, being able to you have helped so many people cope with their process, right? Regardless of where they are. And as you shared, you're not only talking about it from a clinical perspective, but you're able to connect and relate from a personal perspective. And so just sharing those 10 tips, and the article is to walk beside you, tips for caregiver partner of a patient with cancer. And I love that you say it's a partnership, caregiver partner, because you can help with making the decisions, helping to be alongside them every step of the way. And if you didn't get that from those tips, okay, I don't know what else. That was so powerful. So I do have just a few questions for you, and in addition to what you have shared, just wanting to understand as a caregiver, did you have any resources that you use outside? I know you mentioned care. What's it called? Caring Bridge.
Right.
Did you have any resources? Did you have a support group that you connected with? What did you do? How did you get what did you describe the wheel with the
spokes in the wheel?
The spokes in the wheel. How did you get your strength?
Well, we visited a cancer center that had some of that support. We actually had a naturopath that worked with us in addition to our regular oncologist. But you have to realize this was now 13 years ago. So a lot of the things that you see in cancer centers today, like we have at Levine, that are amazing, or I'm sure Novant has, I know they have the Buddy Kemp Center. I'm just saying that they weren't there, and they weren't really focused on like they are today. But for me, it was definitely my family, but my church family was amazing, absolutely amazing. We had people that would bring meals, or just come sit with us. In fact, we had hospice services, and the last 2 days of his life, the Wednesday night before he died, the church canceled their service and came to our front lawn. Wednesday night Bible study. They came to our front lawn and sang, and we opened the windows.
I got chills.
We opened the windows, and my husband heard them singing. He was still alert enough to hear it, and it was one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. Because this was a man with a big bass voice. He was 6'7", and he sang everywhere he went, and song meant a lot to him, and they knew that. And that was a gift they gave us. that was just tremendous. So for me, that was a very strong part of our journey. But I do think it's interesting because sometimes the people you think will be close, they can't handle it. They
Right.
pull away, and that can feel hurtful. And it's almost like they're not trying to be hurtful. They don't know what to say or do. And
Mm-hmm.
then surprisingly, there's other people that you may not have known at all who come to your aid or come to your side or come to your door with muffins,
Mm-hmm.
or, we had neighbors that came to the door, and
Yes.
just people caring for other people. So, in my business at the time, the people there just picked up the slack. They sent me home when they knew. They said, go be with them when you need to go.
Wow.
So, there's, again, support in many different directions, and it's
Mm.
different for each person. But for those who don't feel like they have good support, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
reach out to if you're in a situation, reach out to your clinic, find out what services are available to you. There are support services. There are
Mm-hmm.
social workers, there are therapists, there are support groups, and just reach
Yeah.
out. Don't feel like you have to stay alone, because there are good, caring
Mm-hmm.
people who work in this field.
Yes. And there are. I mean, you don't have to go at it alone. And that is not just for you as a patient, but you as a caregiver. There's support in so many different ways. You may have to dig a little bit depending on where you live, but hey, with social media nowadays, or just a phone call. And one of the things that came to my mind as you were talking, and is some people think that support is monetary, like it's only what can I buy or what can I get you. But sometimes it's just listening.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just you sitting in the same room, quiet, and just your presence, not
Mm-hmm.
present
Right.
as in gift, but your presence, just your physical body, your soul, just being there. And like you mentioned, song, maybe just hearing your voice, you singing a song to me, or reading
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
you
We
know.
had hospice volunteers that came and read to my mother, just read
Wow.
to her. Yeah. And that meant a lot to her.
Right. I mean, it doesn't have to cost, right? It doesn't have
Right.
to be a financial burden on you, if you're not able to, but it could be just being there, just letting them know I'm here.
And weakness, sometimes people think support means I'm weak, and it doesn't mean weakness. We were made for
Yes.
connect. We were made for connection.
Yes.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of just being human. And, and some of the people that are kind of that way the most are those that have been there for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is humbling. It is humbling. I mean, I was in that position myself, and it was very humbling, to recognize that there's times when we just needed help and we
Yes.
needed that support.
So, we talked about how the grieving process, how the patient may go through grieving process, whether you make it through or not, right? Because I know I did. And I dealt with PTSD, depression, anxiety, as a patient. So as a caregiver, did you have any of those mental experiences, like that you had to fight through or battle through
Sure.
as a caregiver?
Sure. I mean, there's something called anticipatory grief. And that basically, means that you're trying to hope and hold on, but you're also anticipating what's coming. And especially when you're, going through months of a truly life-threatening kind of disease. And so some people think it's replaces grief after the death. It doesn't. It's a different kind of grief. And the patient's going through it too. And, grief is not just about death. Grief is about losses,
Right.
loss of your ability to work, loss of a job, loss of a marriage, loss of a part of your body, loss of a part of your body that doesn't work the way it used to, right? Like those are
Mhm.
all things that cause us grief.
Mhm.
And it's a, we have to work through sometimes our emotions to that. So one of the things, and this will make y'all laugh, but it's not, it's kind of, I'm being very open.
Right.
One of the things that a lot of the anticipatory grief for me was very scary, because I'd been married 27 years by then, and then I was going to be alone, and thinking about that, and at times it would come to mind and I would push it away because he was still here and I wanted to focus on that. But I remember one time thinking about, well, what am I going to do if he dies? I can't keep up this old car. I'm going to buy a new car. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some of the insurance money and buy me a car. And then I started dreaming about the new car.
Really?
And it was awful. It was awful. Like I felt guilty because I thought, how can you think about a car at this time? But
Mhm.
as I've learned and grown, I realized that that was a part of me kind of anticipating and preparing for, I'm going to
What?
have to make those kind of decisions by myself, right?
Mhm.
And I had
Right.
to do that for a while. So I'm just being honest. I mean, that was a weird grief piece to come to
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. I remember I was at the gas station one day years ago, and this lady came up behind me and she looked terrified. She was an older lady, and she said, I know this seems weird. She was like, excuse me, I know this seems weird, can you help me? And I was like, sure, what's wrong? And she said, I don't know how to pump gas. I just recently lost my husband,
Mm,
and he did all of that for me. And she looked scared, confused. She didn't know how to pump
yeah,
gas.
I
She,
know.
even paying bills and, having to run a household when honey, the honeydew list was always for him, you know. So, just thinking about that anticipatory grief. I mean, I never thought about it like that, but
Mhm.
it's a real thing.
It
So
is.
whether it's your spouse or, whether you are a child or, a friend, all of that, you'll have that experience. Wow. Thank you, Anne. Thank you.
All right.
We have covered so much tonight. Y'all, there's so much that you can pull from with this conversation. We could sit and have a room full of caregivers and talk about your individual experiences, and it can be a whole conference, right? We can talk about so many different things all weekend long. And so I'm honored to have been able to spend this time with you. And I really hope those of you who are out there listening, that you will take from it, what you can to help you as a caregiver, even looking at it from a different perspective. If you're a patient and, you never really thought about some of this, have some mercy, not only for them, but for yourself, because as Anne mentioned, we're all human. All what you're feeling is normal. It's just maybe you have to look at it a different way. And I feel like she's given us 10 different ways that we can look at caregiving as a care partner. Love it so much. So please connect, as I said before. Check out her article, To Walk Beside You, Tips for Caregiver Partner of a Patient with Cancer. Visit us on our website. Hopefully we can get it on there, and so you can click on our website to get to her article. Reach out to someone like Anne at your hospital. If you're going through cancer right now, there are people who care and people who want to help you, whether they know you or they don't. So don't stay wrapped up in a ball. Open up, because it's a part of that healing process. I believe if once I opened up, I feel like my life took a turn and changed, and I've grown from it. So thanks again for joining me, Keesha. Interviews with Keesha Carter, our caregiver series. Love you, Anne. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our next one. Please continue to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram. We're on, yeah, of course, here on Facebook, Twitter. Our handle is at SCAWINC. That's the handle for everything. It would be in the comment section below, and we just want to hear from you. If you were touched by what was shared today, share with others, and also comment below any questions you may have. If you're a caregiver, if you're a survivor, you want to share your story, send a message to us. We would love to have you featured on our next interviews with Keesha Carter. All right, love you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, or day.
Thank you.
Whenever you're watching it. You're welcome. And bye.